We need a light, honestly, because this is terrible lighting.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about my syndrome and my hearing impairment. It is one of the things that is being asked about since the Deaf Girl Hears for the First Time Walmart video. And so I figured, why not make a video about it and talk about it so people don't get offended when I make jokes about not being able to hear. So Sabrina is here to kind of ask questions, like the most common questions that I get asked about my syndrome or my hearing aid or hearing impairment, all this. So we also asked people online to see if, like what kind of questions they would have that maybe they have been curious about but been too afraid to ask. So the syndrome that I have is called Treacher's-Collins syndrome, otherwise known as TCS. TCS is a genetic disorder that most often affects the cheekbones, jaw, chin, and ears. So the type of hearing loss that I have is a bilateral hearing loss.
Our first question is from our friend Morgan, who's also a loyal follower of our YouTube channel.
Yay!
She wants to know when Hannah got her hearing aids.
So I got my hearing aids when I was around 1, I would say, and it wasn't like the kind that I have now. I mean, they're the same like brand, but they're not. They had a headband. So the hearing aids that I have are called Baha. So it's a bone-anchored hearing aid. So instead of like normal people, so like for Sabrina, for example, her ears, she has ear canals, and then she has everything else that goes in an ear. My ears, I don't have ear canals. This one, it doesn't go in. This is as far as it goes. I mean, as Sabrina is sitting on the side, she can see there is a wall where nothing goes in. So that doesn't mean I don't have everything else that goes in an ear. I just don't have ear canals for the sound to wave its way through. I think I was around 7 or 8. I had my surgery to get these hearing aids. So if you're wondering how this is staying on, I call it a screw, but there is a medical term for it, but it's always been called a screw around me. So it's basically like a little screw that you put in a wall to hang up a picture. It's basically that. But there's a medical term for it that I don't know. And I just clip my hearing aid on it. And that is connected to the bone in my head. It sends vibrations into, the other tools. And then that's how I can hear, I guess. One of the things people ask me is how I hear, like how can I describe how I hear without my hearing aids? Because I can hear without my hearing aids as long as people are yelling at me. So basically it sounds like if you're underwater and it's all muffly, so like if somebody was to talk to you underwater, like, that's a fun game people play is, oh, guess what I was saying underwater. If people do that and you can like kind of hear them, but it's very muffled, that's how I hear without my hearing aid. My little cousin Ethan asked me if I had a choice between having a hearing aid or not having a hearing aid and being able to hear like Sabrina or anybody else, what would I choose? And that's a really tough one because there are some days where I'm like, man, I really hate having a hearing aid, and I really just like hate the fact that I am the one to deal with this, and it's a struggle for me to have to live. I don't want to make it sound like a burden because it's not a burden, but it does. I do get upset sometimes, and it is hard. It's hard. It's because I do have to do the extra steps to change a hearing aid battery. Like, I do have to stop conversations or stop what I'm doing to go change the hearing aid battery, because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to hear. But then there are some days where I'm like, man, those kids are really loud. Boop, and I can turn it off. Like, I have the option to turn off my hearing aid, and kind of get away from the stress of the world. You know, I always think that I am this way to either help someone else or because I'm strong enough to handle the circumstances that I have been born with. I'm made the way I am, and I have accepted the way I am. If I don't accept the way I am, then is life really worth living? So my little cousin Malaya asked me if I've ever been bullied. Yes, I have been bullied, and it was in the 2nd grade. And I went into surgery to get my screws done so that I could use this kind of hearing aid and clip it on and shit. So basically, they were still very raw looking, like, because I was in the steps of healing, and I had just gotten my little mushroom head taken off. You know, they're still really gross looking, but I was pretty proud of them. Like, to me, it didn't matter, because I was like, oh my god, I'm not gonna have to wear my headband hearing aids anymore. Like, this is gonna be so awesome, because those things effing hurt. I love it. So this one of my friends, who I thought was my friend, she goes, I want to see your surgery stuff. And so I was like, okay. So I showed her the icky, gross, like, I could admit it was pretty gross. Like, as someone who's 7 or 8, I wouldn't want to see it, but, you know, whatever. So I showed her, and I remember, like, her going, oh, ew, gross, that's so nasty. And she, like, tapped on the boy next to her, and he looked, and he's like, oh my god, ew, that's so disgusting, like, cover that up, like, that's so gross. And I remember, like, that hurt my feelings so bad. Ever since then, I wore my hair down. I never wore my hair up. It took me a long time to kind of regain that self-confidence, because I was just, that moment, it kind of just destroyed everything. I was like, everything that I was proud of. So my grandma Susan asked, how has it affected your life negatively and positively? I personally don't feel like it's really negatively affected me. I mean, I'm sure there are moments that I'm like, oh man, I hate this. Like, why the heck am I dealing with all this? I think the most negative thing about it is I've had surgeries. I've had too many surgeries that I want to have, and that's very scary for me. So I feel like that's probably the negative thing. Not that I'm not thankful for those surgeries. I mean, look at me now. So, really big positive thing in my life is my family, for sticking with me and for just being there and treating me like a normal kid instead of tiptoeing around me like I am broken or I'm an object that can't be messed with, you know. Some surgeries that I've had, I've had up to 10 surgeries that I know of. It's hard to keep track at this rate. I mean, geez Louises. So some surgeries that I've had are, I'm just going to list off like the pretty big main ones. I've had ear reconstruction surgery. As you can see, if you look at, I'm using Sabrina as an example. As you can see, your guys' ear is flappy and awesome. My ear is bony and I have no feeling to it. So basically, these part of my ears right here, I don't know if you can see, but those part of my ears, those are my real original ears. Fun fact, those are my real, so.
I didn't know that.
This is like the actual, these are, when I was a baby, I was born, the only way to describe it is I was born with upside down ears. These are supposed to be the top of my ears. So they took rib cartilage. So I have 2 scars. They took rib cartilage from my ribs and they formed the structure of my ear. And they took skin from my abdomen. They took a skin graft and they put that over my ears. So that's why I have like little scars and stuff, because that's where they stitched it. The next major surgery that I had was actually one that I had in April of 2018.
I was very worried and was texting Hannah's mother a lot.
So basically what they did was my top jaw, they adjusted my jaw. They didn't break my jaw, they didn't do anything, they just adjusted it. So they kind of moved it over, moved the bone, and made sure my teeth were aligned. And they didn't wire my mouth shut or anything. They rubber banded it shut. By far is the worst surgery. I was on a liquid diet for 6 weeks. I'm still numb right here on my bottom lip. And
it's been many months.
And I don't know if I'm going to get that feeling back. They did say 4 to 6 months I would get the feeling back eventually. One of the risks is I could have nerve damage, and well, we'll see. We'll see if this feeling ever comes back, but otherwise the results are pretty good.
How do you talk to a deaf person?
Definitely just make sure if you do find that they are deaf or they say something, don't recoil yourself. Like, don't stop talking to them because they're deaf. Like, and don't talk like this. Don't be like, oh my God, you're deaf? I can't. Like, don't yell. Don't. Just talk like a normal person, but just make sure your words are pronounced. And because sometimes a lot of people rely on the lip reading. Treat them like a normal person as well. Don't treat them like they're broken or somebody else. Just treat them like a normal person. Like, talk to them how you would talk to your friends. I'm sorry.
Hannah's a bully. I thought she was gonna hit me again.
Anyway, so that's the end of this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed me going into detail about my shit. I hope this really helped you guys, and please give this video a like and subscribe. Please give this video a like and please subscribe, so because we do fun content.
Leave a comment if you have more questions, and
yeah,
Hannah will get back to you as soon as possible.
And they were roommates.
Oh God, they were roommates.